we'll let everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started in just a minute here. So just give us a second. We'll get started right at the top of the hour. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's just the top of the hour. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sammy Focarino. I'm the Senior Events Manager here at Consensus. I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. So thanks everybody for joining us this morning or this afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. This webinar is presented by Consensus. Consensus is an intelligent demo automation platform that helps scale sales organizations with an interactive video demos. You can learn more at goconsensus.com. We are still taking responses for our 2024 Sales Engineering Workload and Compensation Survey. We need your input on this. This is, if you guys see, we release a report every year on the state of sales engineering, workload and compensation. It is very comprehensive. We're very proud of this. We hope that it helps a lot of you within your roles and organizations. And we need your feedback in order to make next year's the most epic one yet. So I'm going to post the link. You can scan this QR code to take the survey. It takes about less than 15 minutes, super quick. I'll post the link in the chat as well, so you can click that link also. We had such a great time at our events in 2023. Dawn was a speaker at our London event. We're so excited to be gearing up already for 2024. Our first event is going to be in San Francisco. This is our third time hosting DemoFest X in the Bay Area. And we're planning on this being our biggest and best yet. So there's going to be some exciting new networking opportunities. We're going to be offering free professional headshots. And of course, the top tier pre-sales and buyer enablement sessions from leaders and coaches that you know and love. You can register at demofest.com, or I'll also post the link in the chat as well. We're also taking submissions for sessions at the event, and that link is at the registration link as well. So if you're interested in presenting at DemoFest X West Coast, go ahead and follow that link and hit submit a presentation. Speaking of call for presentations, our call for presentations for Virtual DemoFest, which is the largest event in pre-sales and buyer enablement in the world, is now open until the end of January. The event, as always, will feature 3 full days of pre-sales and buyer enablement content. If you have a topic that you think is top of mind, super hot right now around pre-sales or buyer enablement, we invite you to submit a presentation. We're going to have over 50 sessions this year, so let us know what you think is the top sessions on pre-sales and buyer enablement right now. You can submit a session at the link I will post in the chat. All right, let's get on to what we came here for today. We encourage you to participate in today's webinar. Our speaker will answer questions at the close of the session, but you're welcome to post your questions at any time through the Q&A box. If at any time you're having technical difficulties, go ahead and press the help button on the right side of your screen. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker. Dawn Carmichael is a pre-sales coach, trainer, and keynote speaker, and the founder and chief pre-sales evangelist at Winning Skills Limited. After a 30-year pre-sales career, including heading EMEA pre-sales enablement at both SAP and Oracle, Dawn founded Winning Skills to elevate the pre-sales skill set and help take the profession and craft forward as buyer enablers. Dawn has taught pre-sales skills at Adobe, Deloitte, SurveyMonkey, Sage, Freshworks, Concur, and many, many others. Dawn is co-host of the 2 Pre-Sales in a Pod podcast series and has his own hashtag on LinkedIn, hashtag Pre-Sales by Dawn Carmichael, and regularly contributes to web events. And with that, I'm going to turn the rest of the time over to you, Dawn.
Thank you so much, Sammy. Let me just make sure we can do the sharing thing, get the technical stuff over and done with. And check on my second computer to make sure the latency works. And it does. There we go. Thank you so much for coming to this, whether you're seeing this live or whether it's recorded. And I'm just showing off my new T-shirt, which arrived only about half an hour ago. I imagine from the US. So I live in the UK. So to get through all of our customs and Brexit tangle, well done to Consensus. Very nice. Really enjoying that. So if any of you are on this or watching the recording and you were actually at either Demo Fest X in London or Dublin, this is essentially what I presented. And there was a lot of people said, you know, can we get a recording of this? Or can we see the slides? And then we're disappointed when they saw the slides that actually it's just most of it's a series of images until we get to the core of it, which we'll see in a minute. So I was very keen that I had to ask, you know, Sammy and the Consensus crew if it was okay if we could actually record this, do it again, and actually record it for posterity so people could actually see it. Now, if you did see this in London and Dublin, there was a bit at the beginning which was it wouldn't really work doing as a recording. That was, if you remember it, a bit about kebabs, foot hygiene, pirates, that kind of stuff. So I've had to kind of move that bit out, but there's still a massive kind of storyline there because there's the whole thing about you being much better at some pre-sale skills as a 5-year-old, which I'm hopefully would find quite intriguing. And hopefully I'm going to convince you of that. And I'm going to use that as a way of navigating to a tool that I hope is going to be something you're going to use to actually simplify how you build demonstrations and how you build value propositions. So let's get started. So yeah, Sam is going to stop me if there's kind of like a real critical kind of chat thing. But essentially, if we can kind of get to the end and then, you know, ask as many questions as you like, and I'll try and answer them, certainly. But let's get going. Let's see if we can go meet a 5-year-old. Here we go. Here's a 5-year-old. It's not me. I'll be honest, I was ginger. So so that didn't work too well for me. Anyway, at least kind of going grey at the age of 30, got rid of the gingerishness. So there we go. Here's a 5-year-old. So imagine yourself as your 5-year-old self, kind of go back that far. What I want to introduce is 3 things that your 5-year-old self was much better at, or you know, had already mastered at that age. And one of them is this: really good at asking questions. There's a really interesting down on the bottom right hand side, Gong.io. They had this kind of source fact that 5-year-olds ask 300 questions a day. And apparently they worked that out as kind of 25 questions an hour. Now, I don't have kids myself, but I'm a very experienced uncle. And I would say that all the 5-year-olds that I've had dealings with ask a lot more questions than that. And it can sometimes be quite revealing or embarrassing, you know, like, Uncle Donald, you know, why have you got grey hair, or why are you so fat? That's a very good question. Let me explain why people don't normally ask that. But no, you've got to answer it. So your 5-year-old self was completely uninhibited about asking questions about the world around you. And it's kind of weird, isn't it, as we kind of turned into adults and, you know, further on in our career, that we kind of get inhibited about asking questions. But it was fundamental. We were really, really good at it. And something else that we were really good at was drawing. You know, certainly up until around about the age of 5, maybe kind of 7, we just sketched and drew everything. You know, you could keep me busy for 2 hours with some, you know, pencils and bits of paper. You know, a bit more advanced here is actually using kind of, you know, color pots, that kind of thing, painting. And actually, okay, it may have looked a little bit childish, but we were children anyway. And you can tell what that is, can't you? That's a house and there's a tree and the sun's shining. It's all pretty good. So, you know, as a 5, let's say up to about 7-year-old, all of us just sketched all the time. It was just completely natural. It was how we probably made sense of the world. Now, something happened. I explored this a few years ago when I was kind of building a kind of sketching and, well, you can see some of the stuff, sketching course for pre-sales people. Something happened around about the age of 7, and it probably happened at school. And what happened is you were doing this kind of sketching, and one of your friends, so-called friends at school, said, "That's, you know what, that's rubbish. You're not very good at sketching at all. That's not what a house looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like. You know, what you've done is a load of rubbish." And for a lot of us, that put us off sketching. We go, you're right, actually, well, I'm not very good, am I? I don't think I should really do any more sketching. Or if I am going to do that, I won't really show anyone else. So, and that's such a shame because, sketching, well, you can see in the background there, sketching, just getting a pen out, sketch something first, draw it and, imagine it visually, is such an absolutely brilliant skill to have. And again, it's such a shame that for many of us, we didn't kind of take that into kind of adulthood. And again, the blame has to go to, what happened at school. And that's maybe for many of us, school introduced new skills and talents to us and things that we're good at, but also took things away from us, which is not so good. But if you think about drawing, there's sketching as a 5-year-old. I mean, maybe that's a 3-year-old sketching it, but I can tell what it is. There's 2 adults and 2 kids there in a house. It might look a little bit childish, but it works. We're able to communicate ideas. And taking that a little bit further, one of the interesting things when you kind of study why some adults won't sketch is actually right in front of us now. One of the things that stops us or inhibits us seems to be an inability or a confidence in drawing people. And because what happens is we're probably used to, people are drawing faces, should it have ears on it? Should we draw, how do you draw eyes? How do you do a profile? And to be honest, in the world we live in, you don't really need to be that competent. You just really need to kind of have some idea that, this most basic of, sketched icon or, little template that represents a human. So so I was going to show you a little video here, but we had to go kind of like a plan B and a plan Z. Z. It was that bad. So here's a couple of shots from a little video I was going to show you. So this is me, hello there. So this is my kind of famous, the world's smallest whiteboard. It's not quite the cheapest one I've ever come across. I actually have a $2, a €2 whiteboard, which is perfectly serviceable. And I kind of get it out now and again if anyone challenges me to say, you know what, this whiteboarding technology is really expensive. Well, no, it isn't. It's kind of, $2 will do the job. So here's the most simplest way to draw a person. There you go. I don't know why I look sad about it, but if you can draw a circle and a U, you can draw a person. That's quite obviously, it's a person, isn't it? That will do. If you want to draw multiple people, there you go. Look, it's a couple of circles and a couple of U's. It's a person. You don't need to kind of make things any more complicated than that. And just to prove how useful this is, here's a sketching exercise I do. This is, we do kind of warm-ups for sketching courses, and one of them is called the Founder's Story. So we kind of use some icons, little simple icons, and the idea is that we make a story that lasts about 30 seconds, which is the Founder's Story. And I've got a big handout to Redgate for allowing me to use their Founder's Story. This is all in the public domain, so I'm not giving anything away and I'm not breaking any non-disclosure agreements. But their story goes like this. You start on the top left-hand side. But way back in 1999, the founders of Redgate, Simon and Neil, saw that they had a problem. They basically had 2 databases, a development database and a production database, that were different and were obviously different, but they didn't have any tools that, what were the differences between the 2 databases. So they invented a tool. They had an idea, now we're on the right-hand side, an idea, a little light bulb, of creating a tool called SQL Compare. And if we roll right forward to 2023, that tool and the tools that spawned from it are in 91% of the Fortune 100. They have 202,000 customers, and they can now prove, because they know how effective this tool is, that it will reduce the time by 61% of what DBAs, database administrators, have on managing 2 different databases. And that time saving of 61% on an average size customer turns out to be that they can reduce by $268,000 per year the cost of managing these databases, which is pretty convincing. So there you go, 30 seconds-ish, using a few little icons, pulling out what are the most important numbers. And you can tell, that's the founder's story. Where did it begin to what is it that, what is it they do now, and what is their most effective kind of value proposition? Okay, so so drawing drawing is good. If you can overcome any fears that you've got, especially drawing people, that's the one thing I find stops a lot of solution consultants, SEs, pre-sales people. That's the one thing that seems to stop a lot of them. If you can overcome that, you can draw. Be your 5-year-old self. Just get sketching, get a pen out, and off you go. Now, that was the second thing. The third thing that you were really good at as a 5-year-old was handling complexity. So here's an example of something that's really complex. And effectively, when it updates, effectively what this is a great big pile of Lego or Legos, as I found out in some cultures. They call this Legos. Now, I have a little bit of OCD, obsessive compulsive. So I actually find this quite upsetting looking at this. I think because as a trained engineer, it's kind of, I need to see order in things. So I find complexity, at this level quite upsetting. But a 5-year-old wouldn't. What would a 5-year-old do with this? They just start picking pieces up. Okay. And let's say, we've already visited doing houses, just start building a house. And, maybe 20 minutes later, they've got themselves, here's a Lego house that they've built. And they just find it very, very easy to kind of see through complexity. And I've always kind of marveled at that, that ability. Here's this thing that looks way too complicated to do anything about. And they just see their way through it. Another way of looking at this is if you gave a 5-year-old to toilet roll inner tubes. Now, as an adult, if you gave me those, I would say that was probably the evidence of a very hot curry. But essentially, if you gave a 5-year-old this, what would you do with them? Well, actually, they do this with them. Sellotape them together, and it turns into binoculars. Okay? And you can see the world through a pair of binoculars, and see your way through complexity. And it's kind of like, the way I explain it is by using these binoculars, don't look at the rest of it, just look at one little part at a time. And there's so much to kind of learn from that. I think it's wonderful. So let me kind of summarize this, because this is me building up these 3 skills, and I'm going to show you a use for them in a minute. So the 3 skills, to summarize it, are ask questions. As a 5-year-old, you were asking 300 questions a day. Why does that work? What does this do? Who's this person? You had no inhibitions about asking questions, and, grab your 5-year-old self back and ask lots of questions. Because, of course, lots of questions, genuine curiosity, that's discovery, isn't it? That's what it's all about, is the ability to ask questions and come across as genuinely curious about the world or the client that you're talking to. So that's that. Be good at questions. Sketch, draw things, get a pen out before you get a spreadsheet out or do a document. Just draw things first. People love drawings, especially if you have a story that's connected with a drawing, like the founder's story that I told you there. That's much more easier for humans to remember. And it seems that's the way our brain was actually built, was to remember stories, and especially ones that have visuals on them. Walk down that hill and there's something that's going to attack you, a lion, our Neanderthal self recounted. And, complexity, overcome your fear of complexity. But if you have to, getting 2 toilet roll holders and just not looking at all the complex, just look at, one little simple bit at a time. Okay, so that's the build up to this. I have to thank Sammy, who's kind of like introduced me already. So, my background to this is I've been in pre-sales a long time. It's probably nearly kind of 35 years. I started off in kind of, heavy duty engineering, programming robots and manufacturing systems, that kind of thing. And that got me into the world of ERP. So I'm now looking at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, tools that you may have heard of or not, like JD Edwards, which eventually became part of Oracle's tool set. And I spent a long time at SAP, first of all, in global partner enablement. I actually built the first partner pre-sales curriculum, and had a third of a hand in the sales curriculum for partners as well. That was quite a long time ago. And that was probably one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done, and also scary. Here's a load of money, build something that'll work for 10,000 people. When the word, was it blended learning and that kind of thing, had only just been invented. So, but in the last 7 years at SAP, I was head of pre-sales development. So that was not just how do you enable when I first started was in EMEA, it was over 1,000 pre-sales people. How do you enable these people? But also, how do you measure them? How do you incentivize them? What tools could you do to do that? How could you, improve the skill sets, be a lot more kind of revenue focused? New tools like activity recording and kind of having dashboards of seeing what is best practice and how do you actually describe it. Similar-ish role at Oracle, but certainly more on the enablement side of things. And in 2015, I started our company, which is Winning Skills, as Sammy said, to give something back. I'm very lucky to be able to, help Consensus out as an advisor, but I've also been an advisor in the RFP world, which if you know anything about some of the articles I've written, just go on LinkedIn, you'll see some of it. I absolutely hate RFPs and was very lucky to work in the early days with a company called Avnio, who were using AI to answer RFPs automatically. And that's now part of Loopio. And I'm really proud of, the help and what they did and the tools that you've now got to, to be able to do things like propensity to win analysis on RFPs, proposals, and due diligence questionnaires. And I think it's a lot less scary and cumbersome than it used to be. I used to absolutely hate RFPs. It was horrible. So, and somebody again said loads of companies we deal with, and I just want to highlight the two podcasts, Two Pre-Sales and a Pod, which started with Adam Freeman. And we've got Mark Green and Tom Edwards, who came on as co-hosts. And then I've kind of gone off, if that's the boy band, I've kind of gone off and around with the future of pre-sales, because I just love doing podcasts and love talking with and interviewing people. So, that's all good. Right. So I've done all that. We did the build up. We talked about the 3 skills that your 5-year-old self was much better at. Let's kind of go back to the day job. In fact, there is a slide that says back to the day job. So let's have a look at, in our world, what are we actually faced with and how would you use these tools? So the first thing I'm going to show you is something rather scary. And don't worry, you're not meant to actually be able to read all this. This is a massive, big, long list that I took off a software vendor's website. And it's basically a whole load of features and sort of generic benefits. And this goes on and on and on and on and on. It's absolutely huge. In fact, what I'll do, I'll just help you by picking one of those out. So here's marketing campaign management, which is one of the features on the left-hand side. Here's the features. This is what you can do with it. And here's these kind of generic benefits. Now, this is kind of the kind of difficult world we live in if you're in pre-sales, is that on one side of things, this might be what you're getting from development or product management is go, hey, we've got all of these features, find a way of turning that into value. So we sit on one side, we sit on these, here's this really complex world of here's a load of things that we can do with our software. And on the other side, we're dealing with people, salespeople who've been given a territory and a quota, and we need to interpret this complex world of features into something that we can help them with. We can work as a team with them. How do we turn this into something that modern buyers, especially in the buyer enablement world, actually want to buy? Also, I need to kind of stop at this point as well, is that when I actually kind of downloaded this off the site, I wasn't really going to say which ERP tech company it is, but I think most companies have got something like this, whether it's on a publicly facing website, or it's just something as you in, pre-sales, SC, something that you have to kind of deal with. So, but it's actually SAP. But, and the reason I was going to say that, not to embarrass them because it isn't embarrassing, is that I have this horrible feeling about 18 years ago, I actually wrote version 1 of this. And I'll put my hand up and say, I didn't know what I was doing. Sorry. Because I was in a global partner enablement. And I kind of had a little side job working with product marketing. And these are the kind of things that would ask me to do. Can you write a big long list of features and benefits? So I don't know who actually wrote this, but I have a suspicion that I might be slightly to blame for it. So apologies up front. So what do we do with this? Because this is a real problem. You can see the level of complexity. This isn't going to work if we can, how do you turn this into a demo? Because we know, just saying here we've got these features and here's some generic benefits, that just doesn't work in the world anymore. You know, what do we do with this? How do we turn it into something that you know, buyers, our clients would actually want to buy, or we could use as part of a, you know, a consumption sale, or as part of, you know, customer success, you know, something that prove that they've got achieved some kind of value and gives them a vision for the future. So all I'm going to do is go back to the three things that we started with, which is, you know, how do we do this kind of thing? We'll do discovery. You know, let's work out, what do the clients we talk to, what is it that they actually value in their own words? Let's do that. Let's kind of draw something, you know, rather than have lots of spreadsheets, because that was the other problem with that. That was just a big hoofing Excel spreadsheet, which is, you know, I like a good spreadsheet like everyone else, but it's not really something you'd want to give a client. So there's that, and let's you know, use our new ability to kind of handle complexity. And if we put all that together, which I did a few years ago, and I'm hoping you're thinking about this, I came up with this tool, and it's called the Value Discovery Map. Now, so I'm going to do the like the Peter Cohen great demo thing. Do the last thing first? So I'm very quickly going to introduce this to you, and then I'm going to tell you how it was built. So we'll come back to this in a minute. Top right hand side, who's the client and what is their corporate goal? So what would everybody in AstraZeneca from the board down know? What is it that we're trying to do in this year, FY23 or to 24? What is it that we're trying to do? So we want to increase from 19% of revenue increase from what they achieved in 2022. It starts at the top with a KBR. It explains as a key business requirement. And there's someone called Augusta, who is a VP of finance, who's kind of person at a level we're looking for, who's a C-level line of business, a department head, who would be tasked with, what are you going to do about achieving this 19% revenue increase? That's who we're looking for. And normally they would lead a whole line of business, department head, be quite influential, and everyone would know who that person is. Then we go down a level. By the way, this is not an org chart or an influence chart. This is, I might have stepped over like 3 or 4 levels or job titles to get to where I want to get below that. I'm looking for a manager, someone who is going to be accountable for creating change that contributes to preventing growth adding to the workforce. And I found that as Nicole, and Nicole has a particular challenge. And by the way, I love the fact that she's measured a baseline and understands where she needs an outcome that has a value in the future, which is Nicole's department of processing manual documents, and they're currently taking 10 days. They need to get it down to 6 days to get what Augusta needs. Okay, which is preventing growth adding to the workforce. So as a company grows, you know, top line grows, what we want to do is contain the bottom line so that there's a bigger margin. That's what they're trying to do here. And then we go all the way to the bottom. So this is the user, operational, or technical level. It's essentially this level. These are the level that things we can demonstrate to people. We can actually show how our technology does something that they feel is of value to them. And at this level, called functional pains. I actually don't like the word pains, but I kind of was convinced many times to leave it in, because this is how it fits and overlaps with many of the sales qualification and methodology tools out there. Like this maps directly by design straight onto MEDDIC. So remember, it's not an org chart. We're deliberately picking levels out where people are accountable for a manager would be measuring things. You know, what's the definition of management? It's the shortest one I've ever come across is you have to, was it optimize the resources under your control? What's that, 5 words, 6 words? That I think is the shortest definition of management, and that tells you why it's so tricky, but also tells you what you have to do in management. You know, optimizing the resources under your control. You are tasked with creating change and measuring it. So at the user, operational, technical level, it kind of depends on, you know, whatever it is you're selling to them. This probably are user level people, operational people. Let's pick on Amy. Amy needs to rapidly find searchable insights. It's something she can't do at the moment. So I'd be looking for what is it that you can't do that contributes to this, reducing 10 days down to 6 days. And also not only what can't you do, but what could we differentiate ourselves with, you know, competitive differentiation. So that's that. Let's kind of get into how it was actually built, because that's kind of really important. Now, the first thing is, you do not start from the bottom with this value discovery map. Don't come along with, you know, that big long list of features and go, right, we're going to build one of these for every single feature. In that way lies madness. And I know because I've worked with a lot of companies who've tried to do that. Do not do it that way. It works. This one works the other way around. Okay. Because this is about what do they actually care about first? And why would they buy something? And then only the what, which is what we're selling, how does that fit in underneath it? So the very first thing is what happens on the top right hand side is for the client, just give them a name and find out what the corporate goal is. Now, sometimes that can be quite tricky, but in a minute, I'm going to show you the actually AI and even just a little bit of research, if you know where to find these things, is that these can actually reveal themselves quite easily. But you're really interested in what would the whole organization know as their corporate goal, and chairs reports, things that are in investors packs, things like that is a really good place to find that clarity of what are the three things this organization is striving for in this financial year. That's what investors look for, stakeholders, shareholders, and at board level, that's what they're looking for, that clarity of what does success, how do we drive the business forward look like. And connected with that is this thing called, I call it key business requirement. It could be called many things, but the question marks are, I'm looking for something that person said. I don't want to put words in their mouth, and who said it. And at this level, sometimes in discovery, you might never get a chance to meet this person, but but if you're doing this discovery right, you can ask, what would this person at this level actually say? What is it that they are tasked with, or they've decided they're going to task their department with, that is going to contribute to this corporate goal? And it's really important that that connection is there. At this level, a lot of tech companies don't even get this far when they're building ROIs. But this is the bit that will separate, that will actually get decisions done, is because even if you don't get to speak to these people at this level, you can coach your internal champion. You can give them the messaging, we call it a value story arc, that will actually allow them to sell it internally and to be able to speak to what a C-level line of business person actually wants. So the level below that, remember, these things have all got a who in them. So I'm interested in who said this, who owns this, who is accountable for it. Would this person be known in the rest of the business? Okay, because if I don't get to meet them, I need to make sure that other people understand, that we're looking for the why, what's important there. So we've got value outcome. Sometimes people go, it's the KPIs, the return on investment, whatever it is. Don't force it on the client. It's for them to say, this is the outcome that we need from this because it contributes to this key business requirement. What I'd sometimes say with this is, maybe don't even use the word value and outcome. Why not just call it, let's be upfront about it. Let's call it success definition. What would be the definition of success? So what is it that we need to do for you, or allow you to do, that would mean that you would resubscribe in 1 year's time? Or, if you've ever seen the model, my cost sync model of, an average SaaS sale, and the fact that, when you sell it for the first year, all you've sold is an unprofitable, risky deal. And then, in a lot of companies, you need 3 to 5 years of retention before you've actually made a profit. So, so this stuff's really important, not just at the, the new business sale, but a lot further on. So if you want to call it success, and in a consumption world, you might have a different definition as well. But we're interested in, how would they measure success? What's the outcome? What would they call it, and give it a name? And it contributes upwards. And it could be, and you can see here, multiple managers might articulate it in different ways, and you want to track this. And then for each of these value outcomes, there has to be something underneath. Well, what's stopping you doing it yourself? Why can't, if you're doing it, how do you measure in what you're doing at the moment? This kind of functional pain. And again, like I said, the word pain is there because it fits into the, many things like, like Medic, Sandler, Sell-In, Challenger, maybe not so much, but a lot of sales methodologies, that kind of word spin selling, that word's built into it. So I'm actually much more positive person. So if you've read the Jolt Effect, I'm kind of, rather than pains and fear, I love the fact that it is more about being optimistic, and painting a future, more positive future. I think that has better outcomes to sales than just creating fear and talking about pain all the time. But that's a completely different webinar. So we've got the user operational technical. What is it? What's the thing we could show you, uniquely show you, the competitive advantage that we've got is only by coming to us, we can show you how we overcome this functional pain. And you can already see how we can build this storyline that goes from the bottom through the value outcome definition to success, key business requirement through to the corporate goal. Right. What's happening at the top, by the way, is that is why they're going to buy it in their own words. And the bit at the bottom is what we're going to sell. Never get that mixed up. Okay. The why isn't really going to encompass what they're buying. The why has to be in their own names. They have to understand it as a key business requirement that's connected to a corporate goal, and there's an outcome that they need from it. I mean, in one way, they don't really care what they're buying. And then sometimes that also explains why, rather than buying a piece of technology, they just decide, well, we'll outsource it somewhere and we'll just do it cheaper than we're doing it at the moment. Okay. You really got to watch out for that. So that's this whole idea of separating the why from the what. The what always comes last. You have to work out what the why is first. So let's go back to our AstraZeneca. So now you can see how this works. So AstraZeneca, their corporate goal is this year, they want to improve on FY22's figure. They want a 19% revenue increase. I have to say, that's pretty brave for a company that size. And we've got Augusta, who's a VP of finance, has said, we need to prevent growth adding to the workforce. So basically, top line is going to go up. We need to contain the bottom line, contain costs, not increase the workforce at the same level that we're growing. That's what Augusta has decided. That is how I'm going to contribute to this 19% revenue increase, basically by increasing kind of margin rates. So that's Augusta, who's a perfectly good C-level line of business department head, probably got quite a large department, or a regional department underneath them. Nicole, who's a manager, has been tasked with reducing manual document time from 10 days to 6 days. And that is how Nicole is going to contribute to containing the costs that Augusta is interested in. And what are we going to sell them? Well, for Amy, we're going to provide the ability to rapidly find searchable insights inside these manual documents, and probably contracts. In fact, something like, if you read something like this, it sounds immediately like this is the digitization project. There's probably some kind of contracts that they're dealing with. But, very clear about separating the what from the why. Okay. That's what we're going to sell, and that's what we're going to demonstrate is what we're going to do. But we're going to talk about why you're going to buy it. And that's really important, because we now know these days, at least 50% of decision makers, we may never, ever find out who they are, or if we do know who they are, we just can't access them. So we have to coach our champions. We have to coach the people that we can talk to. We have to enable them, do buyer enablement. We've got to give them the tools that they can sell internally, and that the tools are going to be the why. This is why you're going to buy it. This is why it's going to fit into the corporate goal. Okay. And this arc, this arrow thing, this is the value story arc, because you can actually build an executive overview from this. So you could say, uniquely, we're going to provide the ability, so this is for Neeraj, to reconcile documents between proposals in different languages. We're the only ones who can do that. And for Nicole, if we can talk to Nicole, that is how you're going to manage to go from 10 days to 6 days in manual document processing. And Nicole, that's how you're going to manage for Augusta to support her goal of preventing growth adding to the workforce. And that supports Augusta has been tasked with contributing to this 19% revenue increase. If I condense all that all the way down, that's an executive overview. That's what I'm going to sell to you and why you're going to buy it. And I've made it, condensed it as much as possible. Now, here's a magic trick. So that's already written an executive overview for you. And remember as well, by the way, that it could be a lot more complex than this. I'm using you remember my binoculars to just look at one little kind of tree of value. There may be, lots more value outcomes. There may be lots more functional pains. There may be more key business requirements, especially in a kind of, large multinational deal where, there are political elements you need to play with, and, and different people have different interpretations of what their key business requirement is. But we're always going to use our 5-year-old skill of sketch it out, ask questions, be open about asking questions. We have a questioning model that sits on top of this, but we don't have time to discuss that now. Ask lots of questions and don't be afraid of the complexity. Find a way of kind of simplifying things down, because the client, if you showed this to a client, they'd absolutely love it, because they probably don't know themselves how this all fits together. This is probably really going to help them. So here's another magic tool, which is, guess what? If you've built a value discovery map, it actually writes demo scripts for you. And this is normally quite shocking for people if you've not seen this before. But essentially, I'll call it preview, view, review. If you want to call it tell, show, tell, or a demo chunk, whatever, it doesn't really matter. There's a bit more going on than a classic tell, show, tell. But let me describe how it works. And it's color coded here as well. Okay. You would start, let's say, a 7-minute script of the right way to do it is start off with a key business requirement. So the demo. So you're saying this is what's important to someone at the top of this line of business, which you prevent growth, add into the workforce. The way that's going to be measured, that's classically something a manager is interested in. Value and outcome is you want to reduce manual document time from 10 days to 6 days. So let me drop down to talking about functional pains. So why can't you do that yourself? Well, because you don't have this ability to rapidly find searchable insights. So this is what I'm going to show you. So this is the view part, and I would tell them this is me earning the right to show you some technology, show you a demo, and you can see there that all I'm going to be able to do is show them rapidly find searchable insights. I do not have permission to show them anything else. I can't just go off in a tangent and go, and let me show you how that's set up. I've set myself up that that's the only thing I can show them. And logically, they understand why I'm showing it to them, because I've justified it all the way up to the corporate goal. So I've shown that, spend a few minutes doing it, and then I finish, come back out and go, right, let's review this. The reason I showed you that goes back to because it produces this value and outcome that you need uniquely. We can help you build. And at this stage, you'd probably want to put some social proof here. And you're not the only ones doing this. We have this other client who's also in the pharmaceutical world. Obviously, I'm not allowed to say who they are, but this is exactly what they're trying to do as well. And they've achieved, maybe they didn't get down to 6 days. Maybe they got even further. They got down to 5 days. Okay, but what you're trying to do is eminently achievable. So how do you get this? And if I just split it out, here's a screenshot. So imagine I'm doing an actual demo. Here's a 7-minute demo video script. You can now see why the preview is there. Okay, we know AstraZeneca that you're trying to do a 19% revenue increase. So we know that at a line of business head, you want to prevent growth, add into the workforce. And we're specifically now going to look at one of the reasons that you need to focus on that, or you're going to achieve it. Manual document is reducing manual document time from 10 days to 6 days, the processing. And what's stopping you doing that? Rapidly finding searchable insights. Let me show you how we do that. Jump into the software, a couple of minutes, and go, yep, I can see how you would actually do that. And that's unique. Only by coming to us can you actually get that ability. That's how you want to say it. And then the review. This is what I've shown you, but the reason I've shown you it is because it achieves this manual document time from 10 days to 6 days, and I'll talk a little bit about some social proof. So you see how that works. If I go back one, this is pretty magic, really, isn't it? This doesn't even need to be like a live client. Regularly on courses, we'll actually just build all this from a case study. Just go, in fact, before a course, I'd normally give me a couple of case studies and I'll build these for you and we'll discuss it when we get in a course. So this is magic. And for those of you, I'm guessing a lot of you have already got consensus, or you're thinking about consensus, and maybe you're worried about how do I build these kind of small chunks of demos. Well, here you are. I'm telling you how to do it. Don't do it on live ones. Take a really good case study, break it down into these preview, view, reviews. And I've just, I've told you how to build the demo script. It does it. It's magic. It just does it. Now, you might kind of go, well, that's great, Don. And I can see that you've worked with all these other clients, but, does it actually work? And, rarely in the pre-sales world do we actually get, a quote from somebody who's using these tools where they've actually can measure, how it's impacted a win rate. But recently, I have to say, thank you so much to Nicola, who actually did measure this and said the value discovery map helped the senior SE on my team achieve a 94% win rate in a single quarter. That's outstanding. And I have to say, well done to them for being able to track the use of the tool to increase in an actual win rate. Because, any of you out there who are justifying, pre-sales tech spend will see that, this kind of stuff's quite difficult. We need to measure things and justify things in a way that a CRO or a sales leader would understand it and would see that they would benefit from, value that's created in their world. So this stuff does actually work. So let's say you haven't got a case study and you actually want to build this from scratch. Well, how do you actually do that? Well, and that's our world, isn't it? No discovery, no demo, no disco, no demo. So we're not doing a demo until we've just done a discovery. Well, now I've given you a model of what it is you're looking for in a discovery. And the thing even writes a demo script for you, which is pretty amazing stuff. And how do you go about doing that? Well, go back to your 5-year-old self, 300 questions a day, 25 questions an hour. You were really good at asking questions, just go back, revert back to your 5-year-old self. You're really good at it. Or we could, in a modern sense, go, sod it, I'll use AI. So I'm going to show a really simple example of how powerful AI is in combination with a value discovery map. So here's a very basic prompt that I asked. I don't use ChatGPT anymore. I use kind of Bard, and there are better ones coming along anyway. I just said, and this is not a fancy prompt at all. I'm researching AstraZeneca, a large pharmaceutical company. Give me 5 topics the CEO would care about. I'm basically asking the question, tell me what these key business requirements were. And it comes up with, should have some music playing here. Warning, artificial intelligence at work. I'm thinking. And here we go. This is what it came back with. Again, I won't read all of it, but just note that the prompts at the top, and one of them was about manufacturing. And I'll just tell you, I've highlighted it. AstraZeneca needs to ensure it has capacity to manufacture its product at a global scale. This is a complex and challenging task, and the CEO would need to be closely involved in ensuring the company has the right infrastructure and processes in place. Great. I love it. But how about, what if I asked it, ka-ching, give me 2 KPIs for each of those 5 topics, and then just pick out the manufacturing one, and it's got on-time delivery of products to customers, manufacturing costs per unit. Well, hold on a minute. This directly, here we go, here's the magic. This directly, I can map it straight onto a value discovery map. And actually, I wouldn't be that far away from the truth at all. Okay, so, this stuff, even before you've met AstraZeneca, you can get a lot of this, down into a value discovery map. This is just all about getting past complexity, sketching things out, asking questions, finding out, where can I get the answers to these from? And AI is just brilliant. The one thing I would not do at the moment is I wouldn't ask it to do what's happening at the bottom, the kind of functional panes, which is essentially mapping your functionality, your features and functions, and the benefits that are derived from that, and thinking about how that would match the value and outcome. And the reason I wouldn't is I would imagine that's where it's going to start getting hallucinations. I've seen some really bad examples recently of just some utter rubbish that's coming out of AI. And it's his bad prompts sometimes that does it. But I actually also think right at the moment is your best place to do that. Do this thing at the bottom. This is what you're really good at and what you're normally very good at. This is the solving problems. How do our technology, and how do we take it and solve business problems? This is what you're really good at. Okay, already. So, so we've got that. Or what you could do is actually do some detective work. So I'm going to get out my my binoculars and have a look around. And there are some brilliant places to get exactly what you need. So, so we talked about a corporate goal. It turns out AstraZeneca's was in plain sight. All I had to do was go and have a look at the investors' pages, and there's the chair's report, and it's brilliant. There you go. 3 things straight out. This is the 3 things that I'll bet you everybody in AstraZeneca knows. They know that they're going to improve. They're going for a 19% revenue increase this year. They know that it's important to them for the, the longevity of the business, that they have scientific leadership, and they want to look after their people. Like hopefully everyone does. And they want to be a great place to work. If you can tap into any of those, find a way of tapping into it through something that a manager would care about, and I bet you've got a much better chance of kind of winning the deal. So in summary, so we're going to go to Q&A or chat, whatever we've got there. In summary, this was all about 3 things, wasn't it? Which was ask loads of questions. You were really good at it when you were 5. Just, get that genuine curiosity back and go, that's really interesting. Tell me more about it. And your passion and interest in what people are saying, that comes across. And that's That's kind of what good discovery is guiding the questions in the right way. And what, some of the people I work with, they just slap down and say, here's a discovery map, help me fill it in. I mean, what's the problem with that? And before a demo, some clients, they go, this is what we know about you on a discovery map. And this is explaining why we're going to show you this functionality. And here we go. And this is how these pre-built demo scripts, how we've actually gone about doing it. So do that, get your pen out, draw things. You can see the world I come from is I absolutely hate making slides. Everything I do, it's either a photograph of something or something I've sketched first and reluctantly turned into, like a spreadsheet or something like that. I just hate doing it. Much rather sketch things. And then there's, you handle complexity. Well, how would a 5-year-old self, how would you do it? Easy. Just don't look at all of the complex stuff. Just pick little bits at a time and pick them out. And the discovery map is all about that, is, hide the complexity and focus on the root, the value story arc. How does this get to what you really care about as a client? So, right. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And I hope you're taking away those 3 things your 5-year-old self was much better at, and maybe reflecting on that, you'll be much better at those now as an adult. Thank you very much.
All right. That was so awesome. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Dawn, so much. We have a couple of minutes here. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to drop them in the Q&A box, I know Dawn would be happy to answer them. So we haven't had any so far. You're just so thorough, Dawn.
I just stop share. I'll stop sharing while we do this. So.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions? We're getting rave reviews in the chat box. But
Oh, yeah, thank you.
No questions quite yet. We'll give
Okay.
it another minute here. Okay. Here we go.
You could, there's one there. By the way, if you think of one after this, no problem. Or if you're watching a recording, just ping me on LinkedIn. I love having conversations there. So just ping me on LinkedIn. I'd really love it if you kind of, wanted to follow, or even better, connect with me, which I think is, I love that kind of empathetic thing that we can both do that. Gary, thank you very much. Yeah. So we've got a couple of questions.
Cool. So let's get into some of these questions. What are the most common mistakes you witness when people first start using these?
So I used to see a lot of people who did not want to draw it. The first thing they did was stick it straight in an Excel. And I was like, there lies disaster. The whole point of it looking like the way it is to stop it getting too complex, is to do that. And then the other classic one is people to start at the bottom and work their way up. And you'll just go mad if you do that. If you've ended up the same thing I showed you with this big, long list of features and functions, some people will kind of go, well, can't you create a discovery, value discovery map for all of those? That's not how it works. It works the other way around. It's for you, because we're good at creating, looking for solutions to things. It's for us to work it the other way around, which is, what do they actually care about? Why would they buy something? And what is it that we can do that would contribute to that, that would make a really good, how could we link it all together? So it's almost like, don't worry about all of the kind of, the features and functions that fits on right at the bottom. Worry more about what sits at the top.
Awesome. How would you address customers who are aware of their pain points and ask you to directly show the features level of the software?
Well, you could do that, or you could just go, well, hold on, we've got this model thing here. Could we plot it out in the model? And that would help them perhaps it would prove that they've got some clarity of thought about how these things connect together. What I've generally found in a lot of clients is they don't actually know themselves how all this fits together, especially true in kind of larger companies, larger multinationals. They don't really know how their own company works. They might know how their own division works, but they don't know how it all fits together. So sometimes it's going, I get that, but just before I show you something, could we show us how this fits together with something that you care about, that you're going to measure, and something that, a line of business head has got as a key business requirement, and how that fits into the corporate goal. Because if they can't do that, they're not going to buy anything. And by the way, that's another thing we find out. Sometimes some of the companies I work with are brave enough to do 2 things. One is to look at a deal that they lost, and we'll try and see that, did you actually know why, was there enough information in there to know why they were going to buy something in the first place? Sometimes there isn't. And I've even met clients who've made a really big sale, and then we plotted it out and said, we'll plot it against the value discovery map, and basically we found out they had no idea why it was bought, because what was going on was somebody internally, they don't know who it was, their, let's say, internal champion had to sell it internally, but they have no idea what was said or what tools or assets they used from the supplier, the vendor, to kind of prove the point. And that's a bit of a disaster, because if you don't know why they've bought it, that's going to cause a problem at renewal, because you don't know what success is defined at. And again, don't push it from your side and say, well, this is how everyone else measures it, because they'll just say something like, well, we don't work that way, we're different, which they might not be. In a lot of cases they aren't. But that's why strong argument for starting at the top and coming down. That kind of answers that.
Cool, cool. All right.
Different cultures, yes. German are not open. That's true. There are lots of actually, I was born in Germany, so I know a little bit about that. Tell you a little fun thing. We've got a minute. Yeah. Asking questions and objection handling is a really interesting thing in German, because English speakers were very used to talking over the top of each other. And that's because you can gain the understanding what someone's going to say before they finish the sentence. In German, the way sentences are constructed, the verb part, the action part, normally happens near the end. And it's really interesting in Germany is that people always appear to be very polite to me, but it's actually a construct of the language that you have to kind of wait to the end of the sentence, not all the time, to actually do that. So it's really interesting in how you would do discovery. And yes, you're right. In Germany, things are they're less open. But I think these kind of tools, if you can kind of go, well, look, even if you don't show us, try and help yourselves internally by working out how all this fits together. And companies across the globe of the same issues, is that people work in their own kind of stovepipes and departments, and sometimes they find it very difficult to find out, how do they relate, not just upwards, but kind of outwards to other parts of the business, and how value propositions are built. The big thing with buyer enablement, we all know, is that, clients, tech companies are really rubbish at buying. You have to be coached on how to do that. And it's the same thing with, that's what a value discovery map does. Is there an editable version? Yes, there are, but you have to come on a course. Sorry, sorry, Imran. No, if you ping me directly, we'll have a chat about it. But yes, there are editable ones. We've got it in, was it Miro, whatever you call it. There's PowerPoint versions of it. I mean, to be honest, I just sketch it. Can you see what's going on in the background? Just sketch it. You don't even need an editable version of it. Now that you've seen how it works, just get your pen out and go for it.
Okay, we have how do you balance, do we already do this one? How do you balance customers that have many detailed use cases they want expressed following an RFX, for example, and keeping things simple like a 5-year-old?
Yep, that's a huge challenge. But if you think about it, if we don't do this, how do we know what's going on? It's classic, a lot of RFPs, if you look at how they were built in the first place, they just kind of, someone maybe in procurement, or they got a consultant, just went round the business and said, well, what do you all want? And sometimes they didn't even kind of balance all that. And it's just this big, horrible mess, and they don't understand it themselves. So that's the power of having some kind of simplifying tool that's really challenging the client and saying, like, how would you go about buying this? Because if you can't explain to us or explain internally how you would go buying it, you're not going to buy anything. And also, if it's a big enough ticket item, the other thing that happens is if you haven't found a way of navigating your way to kind of the corporate goal, what will happen is the decision to buy a big ticket spend on, let's say, some technology, it'll kind of go up and up, beyond people's sign-off levels, budgetary responsibility levels. It'll go up and up and up, and you'll start finding that you might be, the spend is getting discussed in a board level meeting where, let's say, they're talking about, building a, let's say, like a new warehouse is one use of the money, and the other use of the money is buying this technology that you're going to sell. If you can't find a way of articulating why it's more important to the business that they spend the money on your tech, you will have lost a sale, and you didn't even lose to a competitor. You didn't even lose to, the status quo. You lost to buying a warehouse. I mean, and that happens. That absolutely happens. And probably a lot of the time you'll never find out. So that's why it's super important that you force them to find a way all the way to the top, to something that would work right across the business. Everyone knows what the corporate goal is. They might not know each different key business requirement, but they'll probably know the names of the people who own them. And finding a way up to that is the way past all of these challenges.
I know we're kind of at the time here. There's a couple questions. Guys, if we didn't get to your question, I will forward them on to Don so he can reach out to you if he wants. But I do recommend, if you guys really want answers to your questions, definitely connect with him on LinkedIn. He has tons of great resources on there. He's always posting, super active on there. So make sure to connect with Don. Thank you, John, so much for lending us your time and expertise. Thank you to everyone who asked questions and participated in the chat box. We really appreciate you guys joining us for this session. We'll hopefully see some of you at DemoFest X West Coast in February. If not, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.